Well, Michelle, thank you for joining me and welcome to the podcast. We are going to talk all things sports industry and kind of segue into kind of how you got your job and kind of the journey so that people my age and even younger, we can look at this and be like, okay, well, how did she do it and how can I do it? So I want to kind of start off with your kind of collegiate career. I know you majored in communications, but you focused a lot of your time on sports, comm, and advertising. And I saw that you worked as a football manager. What was that experience like, that time in your life like?
Absolutely. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here with you. So, my time throughout college, I would say, was a time that I truly knew a lot of my path. And it's certainly okay for anyone not to know their path. But if I almost take a step back, I'll let you know exactly why that is. When I was growing up, I went to what we refer to here in New Jersey. I'm sure some other states and counties have them as well, but I went to Communications High School. So that is a career academy, basically, which is completely focused on academics. So what that meant for me is it was an art school. And so I was surrounded by so many people who had all these gifts of, arts, communications, as it says in the name. And primarily the majority of us, I would say, were female. And so my graduating class was around 70 individuals. And they were not as in tune, I would say, with sports as I was. So going to that high school, these high schools do not have sports at the high school itself. So I had to
Yeah.
play sports back at what we refer to as my hometown high school.
Hmm.
So that was about 35 minutes away. So I was doing the commute, immediately following classes to come on back and play basketball, field hockey, track and field, etc. for home. And so something I learned throughout that journey is how important sports was to me because I never left it behind.
Yeah.
So it was almost a reassuring factor year over year that I knew that sports was really my calling because I couldn't leave it behind in an area where it would have been so easy to leave that behind.
Yeah.
So going
Absolutely.
into college, my overall major was communications, but I double concentrated in sports communication and advertising, and then I doubled minored in global studies and psychology. So I was a very studious individual. I'm very curious. I love to learn. And so going into college, I really knew that sports was going to be my niche. And I thought that it was going to be more on the advertising, marketing, getting fans in the building somewhere. And what I'm doing now is similar to that, but definitely I'd say no real advertising behind it. Mostly one-on-one, or I'd say, just our organization to the different customers. That's really where I'm focused now. But to your point, going throughout college and working in collegiate sports at the time, I worked for, my football program. So I was their manager. I would like to give a quick shout out to Marist University. We turned to university just less than a week ago. So we were Marist College when I was there, but since changed accolades there. But yes, throughout my time, I almost felt had a very close knit community, and the size of the school was perfect size for me to really make my mark at the school and be able to get involved. I
Yeah.
know, of course, some different universities, such as Penn State and some of the larger ones. Sometimes I would imagine it's a little bit harder to get involved and make your mark at a school, whereas at Marist, I was really able to get involved as much as I wanted to. And
Yeah.
I certainly knew that sports, as I keep mentioning, was something that I could not leave behind and that I was really passionate and focused on. Prior to actually attending Marist, I was enrolled in another university down in North Carolina. And on that very last day that you could take your deposit back and, change things up, I did make the change to go to Marist because it was in a much better location to be close to high profile sports. Marist is in New York, not too far away from the Jets, the Giants, the Knicks, etc. So it was a conscious effort for me from when I was even, I suppose I could say, prior to going into college, of knowing that I really wanted to make it in this industry. And I was so lucky to be able to have stepping stones to get to where I am today at the United States Golf Association. So in college, it was a lot of thinking about the areas I wanted to be in and applying everywhere and anywhere. I remember my first position, even before I worked at the college, was with the New York Jets. So I was there for game days for many years. And I would say that really struck me as probably, if I look back, the key to where I am today. And I say that because football was my passion. I know that we all have sports and we all
Yeah.
have areas that we probably love. Of course, I didn't play football growing up, but I grew up in the standard baseball, basketball, football household. So
Yeah.
for me, football at the time was my favorite sport. Now it's Formula One, so I'm sure we can talk about that a bit
Yeah.
later. But yeah, so football was where I thought I wanted to be, and working at as a fan ambassador with the fans on game days there, I learned very quickly that hey, I love football, but maybe I love it almost too much that I don't want to work in it because it takes away.
Yeah.
So that to me was, I was so lucky that I got to do that experience very young. I was 17 when I started working for the Jets.
Wow.
So in one case, I was like, oh, I found my in, right, very early. And then, basically a year after I was working there, I said, I found my in, but I found that this isn't where I want my in to be. And that's
Yeah.
just because it takes away, in my opinion, for me, everything I loved about football. Sundays with my family and friends, enjoying red zone, all of those different things I was unable to do. So I
Right.
wouldn't say it took away from my passion, but I realized that in a sense, I couldn't really enjoy working in sports as well as working in my top sport, I would say, because I couldn't watch it and be a fan, which is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of something you said. You mentioned, kind of, obviously you did the advertising route in college, but then once you got into the industry, that definitely pivoted, and now you work
Mhm.
more with fan services and tickets and stuff like that. When did that switch happen for you? When did you decide this isn't what I want? And similarly to kind of working in the NFL, I know there is that kind of fear inside of me, at least. I know a lot of people have like, right, I really love football, or I really
Mhm.
love Formula One, but is it going to change because I work there? Am I going to get there? Like, this is my lifelong dream. I want to work, for me, for example, I really want to work in PR for F1. But if I finally get there and achieve that dream, like, and then I don't like it, or I don't want, it's not what I wanted. But when did you decide that, that fan side or the ticket side was more what you wanted to do?
That's a great question. And I don't know if there was an aha moment for me where I said, I'm not going to be focusing on this marketing advertising path. I think a little bit of my path found me in the sense of working on those game days with the Jets. I was, my primary responsibilities was to get these, um, I would say, elevated spaces prepared for our different fans who were coming on in. So I was really in these elevated spaces throughout MetLife Stadium and hands on with the fans one on one. And I learned almost immediately that the areas of sport that I love and the reason I was getting into sports was because to me, it's an area that's global and everybody can come together to either root for or against, the what's going on either on the field or the different fandom. I really love that aspect of it where it doesn't matter your background, where you're from, etc. You're all there for a certain goal, and that's either to support the team or the person that you're getting behind, or to just enjoy the game, to come together for entertainment. I really enjoy all those different aspects. So for me, very early on, of course, the Jets at the time were not the best team when I worked there. Not that they're doing too much better now. No offense to any Jets fans out there. Um, but, people would leave there fairly angry at the games. And I understand that being a fan, you want to root for your team. But now I almost more so root for a game versus different players in the game. Not just football, all across the board, because I just really enjoy the competitive aspect of sport. And I realize how much where people are so involved with their teams that it again takes away from the game sometimes. I can only speak for the people in my life, during the Penn State games, it is make or break. The whole day, if they win or lose, is, really dependent on that game. And I understand that fandom. But for me, I was thinking, how can I make sure that someone still enjoys their time, regardless of what happens on the field, out on a soccer pitch, etc. Because I can't change who wins, as much as everyone wants us to be able to make sure their team wins. So what things are in my control that I can really have oversight on? And for me, that was someone's overall fan experience. So I want to make sure really at any organization I'm with that from the moment that fan wants to attend the game, or now in that I work in golf, the championship, from the moment that someone is interested in attending that, I can have a positive impact to make sure that their experience goes well all the way until they're in their car ready to leave. So I'd say that I didn't necessarily have that pivotal moment that said, let me work more with fans as opposed to the advertising side. It was just from my very early on experience, I knew that I wanted to give back to other people's experiences. And so I always kind of, I would say, floated on that path. So I never truly went into the advertising marketing space to know that it wasn't for me. I just knew that I truly loved working directly with the fans and making sure their experience is better every single time that they wanted to attend a game. So that's how I say that it almost found me. But I really would, encourage everyone to go out there and find these different areas. I was very lucky where I continued to go down this path that I feel very comfortable in and I absolutely love. And I still utilize a lot of the skills that I found in advertising and marketing. I'm constantly on Photoshop and doing other projects, which I would not have learned if I didn't take those majors or end up at my
Yeah.
high school that I did. So all those tools still very much come in line with what I do today. My team here works every week with the marketing team. We're constantly bouncing ideas off of one another. So I'm still very lucky where I'm able to have that piece of me, that creative side to me. I always say, I don't do well in rigid roles because I really enjoy, being able to mend things and constantly make them better. So I would say that overall, it's a really crucial time, especially if you're in college or even immediately outside of it, to find different areas because you never know what you're going to love. I have people on my team now who are in ticketing and they never thought that that was going to be an area that they enjoyed. And then they got to come on out to our golf tournament last year, spend some time with us in our ticket office, see what we do, see how much customer service we provide. And now they found their niche and they're on the team. So I just say for everyone, even if you're studying in college, most likely the direct things that you're learning or want to do now is not where you're going to be in 10 years. So just keep an open mind because you never know where you're going to pick up passions along the way.
Yeah, I really love that, and it's a message that I've heard,
Mhm.
a variety of times. I'm in a class right now that's all about the sports industry, and if first day of class is like, who wants to work in broadcast, and that's a third of two-thirds of
Mhm.
the room, right? But in reality, a lot of these people, like even myself, potentially in the future, you're gonna work in tickets, you're gonna work in sales,
Yeah,
because that's a big part. Fan experiences, all that stuff makes it run just as much as the PR, the broadcast. It's just the
absolutely.
face, right? That's what we see is the broadcast, or we see the PR if it's on social media, but the ticketing role is just as important in sales and stuff because the show must go on, right? But I want to talk a little bit about your time at the Jets.
Yeah.
Um, firstly, what was that like for you? You mentioned kind of like the football thing,
Mhm.
big sport, but also how does it differ, like the Jets versus somewhere like the USGA? What are like the key differences there?
Oh, absolutely. Two great questions. So, of course, working with the Jets, I have nothing but praise for their organization. I could say I'm not a Jets fan now, but I still, actively hope that they do well. So, I would say overall, the differences between starting with, somewhere like the Jets and coming on over here to United States Golf Association, something that a lot of people are not familiar with our organization now that I'm with the USGA, is that we're a nonprofit. So, largely going from the majority of sports teams who are for profit and very revenue based to now being with an organization that truly cares more about the game, I would say, than the revenue aspect is night and day different. And I feel so much more connected to my organization today and the people surrounding it and the fans who want to come on out to the game, probably because of that nonprofit aspect. And we truly mean it over here. And what I say by that is, in my past jobs when I worked for, let's say, the New York Red Bull, and I was on what we refer to as their sales and service, and I was on the service side, so I wasn't the person who was directly picking up the phone and calling every day. But of course, a lot of times, different employees work off commission-based structured at those organizations. So you're almost ingrained to think, how much can we get out of this fan? All the revenue there matters. There's leaderboards a lot of times if you're in an inside sales role or working in tickets at these organizations. So you're really competing against one another to either get the most people in the building or have those people spend the most money. And it's completely understandable. I don't necessarily, think of it in a negative context, but now that I work for some place that is nonprofit, the thing that really brought me on over here to the USGA, and I can be blatant about it, where I was, at the same time received another offer from a very well known sports venue. And some people probably think that I'd be crazy to turn down that sports venue given the name. But during my interview here, I was told right away that when a fan calls in, we don't have to push them to the highest price ticket that we have. We don't have to push them to these all inclusive offerings. Ask them what experience they want to receive and then give them the options, because we here now are really about, again, preserving the game of golf. It's probably something that a lot of individuals did not grow up with, but that's what we
Yeah.
want to do, is give back to, I wouldn't say give back to the community as a sense, because of course our tickets still have to sell and we still have to make money. But for example, at our smaller championships, juniors that are 17 years and under are free. I mean, where can you go to a Jets game and receive a free ticket when you're 15 to enjoy the sport? So all of those things, when I came on over here, truly blew my mind from someone who's so fan centric and
Yeah.
really cares about the experience. So again, having all of these wide range of policies, and that's really what I do now, is I'm able to oversee those policies. So making sure that they're, still in action year over year, and being able to really tell the fan that we care about you, we care about your experience. We want you to love golf as much as we do. And it's okay if you don't, but if you just want to open up your eyes, your heart to the game, maybe you're bringing along your niece, nephew, child, or, your neighbor comes on out, because for a lot of our championships, it is extremely affordable. So having that different mindset working here for that nonprofit, because everything we do, every additional penny we have goes back into the game of golf. We
Yeah.
recently created a national development program because golf did not have one like you see in basketball, football, etc. So we truly just care about the game and making sure it's around longer than we're around, as morbid as that may be.
Yeah.
We really have that mission to keep it going. And yeah, my mindset on over here is just much more happy. I'd say I'm more in line with our missions than I was anywhere at my previous organizations.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea that you don't have to push something on someone, because that's definitely something that I've like for me is
Mhm.
hard. Is like I don't even like it when someone, for example, owes me money or something. It could be
Mhm.
$5. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna ask you for it. Like,
I'm the same
so
way. I'm like, oh, I can
yeah,
take
it's
that one.
fine.
It's
So
fine.
that idea that if someone picks up the phone and you're calling about tickets, it's not, oh, here we have this $500 ticket. It's like, what
Mhm.
can I help you with, right? Because I think
Yeah,
that's huge, and that does welcome people in. But I do want to talk more about your role. Can you kind of walk me through, or walk us through, what does it look like? What's your day to day
Mhm.
look like? And what things do you do, as a, what's your job description, let's say?
Absolutely. So I'm sure that we all here working in sports know 2 days are the same, right? And I feel as though that's a lot of times why we're in this side of the business, because those, in my opinion, who work in sports are probably the most adaptable individuals out there,
Yeah.
where we never know what's going to be thrown our way. We essentially work in entertainment and line of live events. So my day to day really depends on the time of year, but overall, what I'm mainly in charge of for my team, we're a small but mighty ticket and credential team. So I started with the organization more so on the credential side of the equation, I would say, and now I'm more on the ticketing side. But overall, I oversee all of our customer service and a lot of our fan engagement efforts. So for customer service, for anyone who's not familiar, golf tends to be a bit of an older audience. So a lot of times our fans just need a little bit of extra patience, hand holding, and understanding, because we're fully digital with our tickets. So my team makes sure that, our fans are all squared away. We could receive 10 emails tomorrow and 5 phone calls. And then around our US Open in June, we will probably peak at about 500 emails coming on in. I'd say over the course of a few days, and, maybe 30 calls a day. Just because as much as we, like to supply our fans with everything they need, a lot of times, again, just some extra hand holding, they have additional questions. And we're faced with the task of our events at the USGA. We change locations every single event and every single year. So for example, right now in 2025, we will be not too far away from where you're located, but in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's our US Open. Whereas next year, that is in New York. The year after, that's in California. So part of my job as well is always being ready for the next location. So I'm focused on 2025, but just a few days ago, I was in a call for 2027. So we are always looking ahead. So I am in a variety of different ticket pricing meetings because we're looking at different market research. Our ticket prices do not remain the same every year because we change locations. So what's good in a market in Pittsburgh does not mean it's good in a market where Shinnecock is, which is in the Hamptons. So very different there for us, even going from this year to next year. And then the year after, we're at Pebble Beach. So again, a very different market when
Yeah.
you're thinking of Pebble Beach in California comparative to Pittsburgh this year. So we're always looking at those. So customer service is, I would say, something that I directly lead, as well as I'm very much involved in those pricing discussions and all of that. We have someone else on our team who really runs our revenue side and pricing strategies, but I love to be involved because I love to constantly be learning and be in the loop since I do have to deal so much with our customers. Then I would say on a day to day as well, I police and create all of our admissions policies now. So what that looks like, it's about, I don't know if we're up to 12 pages now on that policy, but it's everything from how many tickets the players can receive to our staff complimentary tickets, which we do give our staff for all their hard work throughout the year. PGA of America members receive different tickets for different championships, our rules officials, etc. So I oversee that document and provide a lot of information regarding that, as well as I oversee all of our ticket requests. So as you're probably familiar with in some other organizations, let's say we keep bringing up the Jets, so we'll give them more FaceTime here, but let's say you're in their organization. I'm sure a lot of their team members may get a ticket or two to a game. We do that as well here, but we have a lot of guests because we are generally speaking general admission. So we don't have a lot of hard caps that a stadium does. So we have a little bit of wiggle room there. So I really oversee all of those guests and requests that come on in as well. So our different teams, let's say merchandise, marketing, our different, assistants will put on in these requests. And so I oversee a lot of them, help their guests out with their mobile tickets, give them additional information that they need to know. And then I would say a large majority of my job, aside from overseeing, let's say, fan guides, articles, and all of that, really has to do with our staffing. So every single year, we hire not only USGA interns who join us in person, but as well as student volunteers who assist us. So over the course of the year, I hire overall probably around 50 different individuals to assist our team. So we utilize a lot of seasonal efforts for our events because we do travel.
Yeah.
So I oversee and manage and hire all of that staff for us. So those are individuals who are either assisting me on my team for customer service. So they're answering our emails, our calls, our chatbot. Other individuals are helping us print our credentials and distribute those to our different stakeholders. And then we have a core team who will help us on site at our events, overseeing our gates, overseeing our junior ticket process, etc. So I'd say that that's where a lot of my time goes, is just
Yeah.
putting that in place, answering a lot of questions that come up along the way, and making sure that as a whole, our team is really prepared for when we go on site. And then we almost turn into in-person customer service.
Yeah.
So when I'm at an event, generally speaking, I'm overseeing our main ticket office, which is always located at our main gate. So we could have 20,000 fans walking on in that main gate a day. I like to say, hopefully I don't see all 20,000 fans. That means I did my job well, but they'll pop over for any question, every question you could think of. So a lot of the organization refers to our team as the first line of defense, because not only do we have to know everything about ticketing, I have to know everything about everything, I would say, or know who to go to for that information.
Yeah.
So on my team, I'm probably one of the most connected individuals to our whole organization because I'm constantly calling our championship team, maybe the communications team, even green section, everything in between. We really, everyone needs a ticket or credential to get on in. So I love that aspect of my job and my role here. We work with almost every single department. So we have a great rapport with everyone. And I constantly get to learn because I get to see and am familiar with all these other teams and departments.
That's amazing. I love that. Now, kind of piggyback on what you just said, like, that's something you love. Do you have a favorite part of working in sports in general? And then on the other hand of that, is there like a key downside, do you think, of working in the sports industry?
Yeah, I would say my favorite aspect of sports is really being a part of someone's entertainment experience, right? I know that that's definitely something and a theme that we've talked about, but there is nothing better than when you're walking through at the end of a game, right? And your team's about to win and it's a home team. Or here in golf, every golfer is basically independent, but being able to see that final putt drop, there is such a feeling that you accomplished something and you made all of these fans, you had a little hand in that happening for these fans. So it's almost so gratifying to see the smiles on other individuals' faces. On the flip side of that, the hardest aspect, I would say, At least in what I do, of course, the hours. I say that all the time when I'm hiring individuals is so many people want to work in sports, but they don't understand the dedication and the hours that it takes. So in my previous role, I was with an MLS soccer team. We had 17 home games that we all had to work. So that primarily was on the weekends. So you're giving up a lot of time to other things that you could be doing, right? I'm sure that we all work in this industry because we enjoy sports, but we all have other hobbies as well. So making those sacrifices to not attend a birthday party, to not attend possibly a wedding or a bridal shower for me. It's those areas that I really have to make sure that my family and my friends, my support system understand, because it's not always easy to be able to balance all of these areas. I'm missing a wedding in May because I'll be on site for our Women's Open that I'm extremely disappointed about because they're great friends of mine. But unfortunately, these sacrifices have to occur. And I would say just on a daily basis too, the hours, I'm sure if you're connected with, any sports team, you have to get there normally before gates even open. You're there normally until the end. On golf, it's a long day. So very different than me having to make sure I'm there for 17 home games. Now I basically just know I don't have a June. Like I just June, nobody talk to me, nobody throw a wedding in there because I probably unfortunately cannot attend as much as maybe I can make it happen. But that's what I say. I just do not have a June, and I'm okay with that because I normally get all the other months. June is, our US Open is in June every single year. We're on site what we refer to as advance week, so days prior to the event, sometimes day after, to wrap things up. And on those days, I myself tend to be on site around 4 a.m., 4:30, and we're there until about 7:30 p.m. It's a very long day. I say I go to bed after a shower with my hair wet. I wake up with it wet, and I'm just used to it. There's not even enough time for my hair to dry at night, and it's those sacrifices that a lot of people, I would say, are not cut out for. And you think of sports as this glamorous, oh my gosh, we get to work with so many people, so everyone comes on in and wants to work with the athletes, which I understand, but there's so much more to it. And a lot of times I feel as though the long hours and having to constantly be a team player and adapt to different roles. A lot of times, some of these organizations are understaffed. So although you're in one area, you're really helping a variety of different areas, which is something I love because, again, I'm a curious individual and I love to learn along the way, but certainly not for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. I always hear people, we talk about it all the time, and one of my like pet peeves is when they'll do man on the street content around
Mhm.
campus. Like, what's the easiest major? And their communications. Well, in
Everyone says that,
theory, yeah,
right?
in theory, yeah, sure, my classes aren't that hard, but you're not the one that's on campus in the production studio every
Mhm.
night till 11 p.m. And then realistically, in the real world, we work the jobs that nobody wants, right? You don't want to work on your Sundays. You don't want to work on Saturdays. That's the time you want off. But that's when
Exactly.
sports happens. That's when the big games are. They're always on the weekends or at late at night. That's when usually a lot of the basketball games are at night, and like you said, golf is a whole day. So it's a long day. It's crazy. And I think a lot of people are already realizing that here at Penn State because there is, like you said, so much to get involved in that you're
Mhm.
kind of being pulled in every direction. It's like, oh, I have to do this at 11, but then this is at this time. And you're like, what do I do? So, but yeah,
I I was just gonna say, I love that you touched on that because I do feel as though people think communication majors is almost excuse me for not having a better word, a cop out, right? When you go to classes, I can say in general, uh, personal relationships, communication can really help you in every area. So I don't by any means think that it's a cop out. One, of course, that helped steer my career here. But the thing about communications and some of these other fields is one, if you go into communications, it opens up so many doors for really everything and anything you could want to be. And I certainly even encourage individuals to become a communications minor if it could fit in with their schedules and help there. But you learn so many, I would say, things in communications, and communications itself to me is so important in any job that you receive. The better you are at communicating, I would say the better you are at your role, the more connections you will make both inside of your department and outside of it. So
yeah,
I just wanted to touch on that I agree, so many people think that communications is almost an easy way out, but in a sense, it could also be a pillar to get to almost anywhere you want to go. I know
yeah,
so many people who follow different majors and they're no longer in that major.
yeah.
So that's too, I feel as though we're so young in a sense of when we have to pick our major. So, some people have clear paths of where they want to be and they know the majors. Other
Yeah.
people, so many times I hear, oh, my parents pushed me in this direction, or I was told to become this. And then, I always say we're better at our jobs when we're passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
And I do for, the people on my team, I say that as well. There's certainly going to be jobs and tasks that they don't enjoy doing, that I don't enjoy doing. But what are the areas that maybe they enjoy doing than other people on my team? Because I'm going to give them those projects and those tasks, because if they're interested and passionate about that task and it resonates more with them, why would I give it to someone else? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that there's so many areas, and now's really the time to continue to push our limits, find our interests, and really chase those passions. Because even if you're in an area, let's say, I have a good friend who's in accounting, and maybe accounting's not necessarily his passion, but he loves the work he does. And so he's so much better at it than those individuals who are kind of chasing, I'd say different salary levels. Because in my opinion, we really only have one life. So I'm so happy I'm doing something I enjoy doing every day, compared to some of my other friends who I know, you get that Snapchat, that voice note about how terrible their day is consistently. And I'm so happy I'm not down that path.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to, you talked about working in the MLS and working. Um, that's another one of those sports where, like, kind of compared to the Jets, where everyone knows the Jets, the NFL. It's a little bit more in the U.S. at least. Soccer is a little takes more of a backseat. But also on
Mhm.
that, the New York Red Bulls. That's a branded team with the Red Bull brand, and kind of from what at least I understand from the outside, and
Mhm.
there's kind of a structure you have to have because of that partnership. Is there
Sure.
anything that, that's very different about working with a very big a brand like that, about, kind of like, oh, I can't say this, or I have to say this, that kind of like sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And that's absolutely correct. So, when I was with the MLS, it was for 3 full years, and I had a great time there, a great team. I learned so much, made so many connections. But you certainly do have that overarching umbrella of the name, because, of course, we're the New York Red Bulls, but then there were other soccer teams who were in Europe who had bigger names. Then you have, of course, the energy drink, you have everything they do with these different activations and their other sports that they're in charge of course, Formula One as well. So you're absolutely correct that not only were we thinking about soccer, but so much of what we wanted to do was almost halted because of our name and because of so many, contributing factors that were out of our control. Me being a Formula One fan, and because of my job at the Red Bulls, I became a Red Bull fan in Formula One. But there's people who I'll see actually on trackside, with them, their team, these different names, Oliver, etc., who not only are they involved in their motorsport, but they would come on into our office and it would be like, oh my gosh, so and so is coming on in. And then you have to, put on an even better rapport because they are focused on all of their brands. So, although we had a team specifically, of course, for us at the MLS team, everything they did really had to, roll on up to that Red Bull brand. So we were consistently working with, their actual offices over in Santa Monica in California. But yes, you're absolutely correct that it is very different when you are part of a brand versus just an independent, I would say, organization.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have specifics, I would say, or probably that I can talk about where things were, maybe halted or had to be, ideas that we thought were really great. And then you find out a week later, like, oh no, so and so from so and so said we can't put that on because of, XYZ.
Yeah.
So it's very different. In one aspect, though, I would say if you're part of an organization that has a great brand, you feel that brand. And I say that because when I left the New York Red Bulls and came on over to golf, and any of my golf colleagues listen to this, they would probably laugh. But I truly, not coming from a golf background, thought that there was, possibly that it may be a bit stuffy, or that me being an outspoken and loud individual, maybe I wouldn't find my place there. Luckily, I was extremely wrong, and everyone was, welcoming, and we have an amazing time with everyone. I have great teammates, but coming from some place like the Red Bull, who's relatively new, everybody I would say was right around or younger than about 40 years old. It's modern, it's fun, it's fresh. Red Bull has this brand of pushing limits, pushing boundaries. So coming on over from there to then the golf space, I thought would be very different, but it certainly was I would say, a struggle on sometimes knowing that we're this team, but then you see how much they were spending on their other teams, how much they spend on Formula One, right? And then our fans would call on in and say, why don't we have better players? You know, we have the money. Like, I know, I see people drinking Red Bull all the time. We have the
Yeah.
money. So I had to combat a lot of those questions to say, you know, I completely understand you're seeing their, you know, European leagues get these big strikers, these big players spending millions of dollars,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of people think, oh, did they forget about us being here in the States? And I had to do a lot of that with my fans because I oversaw season ticket holders. So I had to make them happy and continue their experience and let them know, no, we care about you. You know, I can't control who gets brought onto the team again. Like, I can't control us winning, etc. But that's where I really just had to probably tailor my, I would say, how I connect with fans. Again, communication. You
Yeah.
know, I had to make sure that they were comfortable, happy with their season ticket package, that they believed in our team, they believed in our mission when I was there. But there's absolutely challenges. Again, when you see a Formula One team and you know how much even the car spends, you know,
Yeah.
they get in one crash and it's like, here's $1 million. And yet our fans are like, can we have that on just a player, you know? So I had to combat a lot of that.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I think my favorite part, again, also a Red Bull fan and Formula One. And so I think what's so incredible and so unique about Red Bull is that really all of these things that we just talked about are all marketing efforts, right? Their
Absolutely.
product is
Mhm.
the energy drink, and then
Yep.
and then they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on F1, and then yeah, you have I guess smaller ones that are
Mhm.
the MLS team, and that's crazy. It's like your smaller entity is the MLS team, right? But
Yes.
it's crazy, and they have such a wide network. I think it's so interesting hearing that part about, the fans of being like, "But they spent all this money, why don't we get it?" I think
Almost
that's
on a
awesome.
daily basis. But you're right. We could probably talk an hour just on Red Bull alone because it
Yeah,
is such an interesting, you know, I'd say almost case study because, like you said, they have their drink, but it's almost secondary to everything they do, right? They're selling Red Bulls. I see them all the time. You know, I always like to say a little niche thing is there is a Red Bull refrigerator in every single office. So unlimited Red Bull when you're kind of part of the family and the brand, although luckily I would say I'm not a huge energy drink person, but of course, you know, people are
yeah,
going in there consistently. But yes, it is. It's so interesting when you're part of, as we've been talking about, that brand. And like I said, yeah, they see how much money they have and spending elsewhere. And everyone always thinks, why are those dollars not coming to me and my team and where I want to support?
yeah,
And, you know, I had the best answers I thought that I could give them at the time. But it is for me now no longer being part of that, but still, you know, widely connected to the Red Bull brand just from my own fandom. It, you know, I take a step back and think as well is how are they putting their resources? Where is their time and energy going? You
yeah,
know, they basically have two Formula One teams, let alone one,
yeah,
you know? Um, so yeah, it's a very interesting side. And I do almost feel for the fans because a lot of them were fans of the New York Red Bulls. They weren't fans of the Red Bull Formula One team or their other teams. So again, they think of this, you know, this is my team. What why are we not helping my team more? But these other teams are getting more than we're getting.
yeah, I love that. Well, we talked about the Jets, we talked about the USGA, we talked about the New York Red Bulls. You've worked in so many sports throughout your career. Is there a favorite? Is there one that you're like, this is the particular sport that I want to work in for forever, let's say?
Yeah, so I would not say I have a favorite sport. And again, early on in my career, I would have said that would have been football. Now, coming from being in football and learning that I did not most likely want to stay in football, it really came about learning every step of the way after that. I then became part of United States Tennis Association, so the other U.S. Open, I like to
Yeah.
say. So I was with them for a championship. I was their guest services supervisor in their main area. So I learned tennis. Oh my gosh, so much to be able to. You know, connect with fans and their international fans. So, you know, a large portion of their fan base comes every single year from, you know, overseas and you know even places like Australia, New Zealand, etc. So there's not a specific, I would say, sport that I love working in more than the other sport, but I really just love learning along the way. And that's what I say now is being in tennis and then being in the MLS and now being in golf. They're all areas that I was not super in tune with. Of course, me just being a sports fanatic, you know, I know the rules of soccer. I know largely the rules of golf, but not all of them just yet. So I knew all the basics, right? And I knew a lot of the key players and all of that aspect, but I learned so much from the fans. And I learned, how they were playing soccer from when they were 7 years old to now, where they caddied when they were 15 and how many different events they came by. So I'm learning every single day. So I'd say probably I would like to continue in any sport that I'm learning. And I really like that, being a curious person.
Yeah.
So one thing I did love about soccer, though, I will say, you knew when it was going to end. Unlike any other sport, really. I mean, football you
I
do,
love that. Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's
with
the only
football,
one that's like they're gonna start on time and they're gonna end at a certain time. Everything else is like you said, golf is the whole day long. It could keep going, and
yep.
then you never know when we're gonna get an overtime game or when the 2 minute warning is gonna be 15 minutes left of actual time or an hour. So
Absolutely. So I would say to anyone listening, think about those things if you're getting into sports. So I purposely have really avoided basketball and hockey because there are so many games if you work for one of those teams. And unless you work very close or your, schedule and personal life allows that to be, you really have to think of those things.
yeah,
How many games there are, how much time you're going to spend at that arena. And maybe you're all about that. And absolutely, I encourage you to do that. I am very connected with my friends and family. I enjoy, my extracurricular activities, I would say. So just as much as I love sport, I love being able to travel. I'm constantly on the go. So I would say for me, there's not a direct sport that I would have to stay in. I'm truly loving golf, probably because of that, nonprofit aspect and the team I'm surrounded by, not only, my direct team, but all the different departments. So golf right now is great because I know, although the days are much longer and probably I spend much more time with the sport than even the 17 home games of an MLS season, as long as it's still 17. I should have checked that before this, but yeah, I'm probably, spend more time in golf when you compare it. But I know, my US Open, it's 7 days. I'm probably there for a total of 12 to get things set up, and then I'm done. And I don't have to worry about that in, August, September, etc. I know when my events are. I know no one can talk to me really throughout those days. Sorry, everyone, I'm on the road. You want to come on out to golf? Come join me, as a fan. But very different when you have to, surround your weekends about going, into an arena because you have a game that you have to work.
yeah,
So I always say now, as we touched on, I basically just lose, almost probably 5 weeks because of what I do, as opposed to losing 17 weekends.
yeah,
So to me, when you're first starting out, get in the door of where you have to go, especially with sports. We're a very small community, I would say. And I know a lot of individuals, first thing they look for on a resume that comes on in is to see how you got your foot in the door. So just getting that experience, one, is key. But then after that, when you're really looking to set your career, just think of the different areas that are important to you. And so for me, it was, dedicating so many weekends to not being able to even, leave the state or go on a little weekend away trip. Those are things that I absolutely love doing, exploring a new little small town every now and then. I wasn't able to do those things because I was, constantly had to come back and worry, oh no, I have a match that day. Oh no, I have a match that day, and
yeah,
then you'd miss the barbecues or the this or that I really enjoy going to. So
yeah,
there's not one sport I would say more than the other. Again, soccer, knowing the time length you're going to be there, we were there probably around 2 hours prior to gates opening, and then a soccer match is 90 minutes. So you really had that end time.
yeah,
I was able to basically consistently say, okay, I'm going to get out around this time. But as you touched on, in football, you could have a shorter game if they run, you could have a much longer game if they throw. So you never really know, generally speaking, when you're going to get out. Then baseball, before they changed the pitch count, oh my gosh, I don't know how people there did it. Baseball
I
to me
love
is a long day.
it. It is a long day.
Yes.
But I
So
love it. I wanna piggyback off that with, like, to finish off, kind of 3 almost rapid fire style questions,
okay.
that particularly, apply to people that are in college. So, start off, what would you say is the most valuable skill that you learned during your time in university that you apply now?
I would say to be open minded about everything and anything that comes your way, because you never know who, one, you could just become friends with or gain guidance from. You never know who you'll end up working for or with in the future. And again, so many people go into college thinking they want to do something, and then 5 years after, you're in a totally different field.
Yeah.
So I am a big proponent of putting passions and interest first as opposed to maybe chasing a salary in the beginning, so that you can really make sure that you're in an area that you love doing, because it will make your days that much easier.
I love it. We hear a lot from professors, from
Mhm.
advisors, that you need to have a strong network, that you have to be able to network well. Has that personally for you proven to be true? Is that something that people should focus their time on now?
Absolutely. If you have those skills, networking truly does make a difference. I would say that I even need more of that advice. I'm the most outgoing individual. I can talk to a wall. I really can, which is bad. But when I'm put in networking situations, when it's not organic, I have to be more comfortable of making better of those opportunities, because it is true. There are so many times, I would say even some of my interns that are coming on this year, it's because I met them on a golf course and we had a good rapport. And I said, have you ever thought of internships? And that's just a good story that I'm thinking of right now. And it is just from us talking, and he had nothing to do with the USGA, but he happened to be there and we got talking, and he says, I want to work in golf. I said, hey, I have internships, apply, why not? And now he's joining our team. So there are so many of those organic situations that I think really matter. So coming out of your shell would just be amazing advice for anyone, not specifically in sports, but in any opportunity, because networking does matter. I would say that that probably attributed a bit to me receiving my job here at the USGA. My current boss knew someone previously at Red Bull, so was able to talk to him, talk about my work ethic, how I am as an employee. And that definitely helped me get my job here. So yes, I would say, whether it's even people, I tell my interns this all the time, when you're grabbing a drink from the water fountain and you see someone from a different team over there, say, hi, I just joined our team. What do you do? Can I pick your brain? Why not? Right? We have such a welcoming community here at the USGA. And I'm sure you do, throughout your classes and different, universities and different, just in general, professions, is there's almost no harm that can be done from saying hello to someone and just making your presence known, because you never know when that connection can grow. And maybe if you're trying to get a job months down the line, that person could remember that one moment and said, oh, I remember them, they'd said hi to me so and so, at this time. And all those little things could help you get the edge above someone else.
I love it. Well, last but not least, what would be your best advice for someone who's trying to break through in the sports industry?
I would say my best advice, and it may be, pretty mundane here, is to apply. Apply to everything and everything. And I say that where even if you're not fully qualified, of course, there's a difference if you never got your foot in the door and you're applying for something that says, 15 years of experience. But if not, you never know what could happen from just an application. And I say that too, because although I touched on a lot of times we like to see people having their foot in the door before they join our organization, I'm also a big fan of knowing that even in my case, if someone did not take the chance on me, where would I be? So I always think of that as well. When I do see applications, if you are someone who just likes to be involved, it doesn't have to directly be in sports for me. I have someone who's coming on over from Massage Envy this year because she wants to work in sports and she never got the opportunity to do so. She had an amazing interview. And I said, I want you on my team. It's okay if you don't know the ins and outs of this organization or this business yet. But in my opinion, if it shows more on myself being their manager, I can hopefully get everybody where they need to be on my team. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hiring them. And so I can teach someone anything and everything they need to know. And if I cannot, then that is more reflection on myself, maybe not being the best manager that I can be. So apply for anything. You never know what's going to stick. All you really need is those few little things to get on in the door. And then truly, almost in sports, the ball keeps rolling. Once you have that background, you're normally able to continue that path and make it to really where you want to be.
Absolutely. I love it so much. Thank you so much for joining me. I would not be a true Formula One fan, a true Red Bull fan, if I didn't ask you, what do you think? What are your expectations for Red Bull in Formula One this season?
Oh, championship all the way. Come on. If we're not fans and we don't think it, we're getting all the titles. No, I am the biggest Max supporter
Me too.
possible, I would
Love it so
say.
much.
I am really, throw some Dutch flag on my back, although I'm not Dutch, but I really love the competitive nature of Max. I also like that in a sense he takes it very seriously, but not too seriously regarding the media perspective. again, I'm a big fan of having that work-life balance. And I think that he's a driver for me, who really does that. I find him very relatable and very funny. He's also very intense. And I also agree with that a little bit. Sometimes in this industry, you have to get your elbows out, whether you're out on, the field and you're that player, or you're us who are just trying to make it. You can
Yeah.
certainly do so with a smile on your face, but there's something about being, that determined to succeed that I really resonate with. So I would say I am all for it. I am very happy that Liam is joining the team. I was a fan of his as well, so I'm excited to see what he can do. With all the new rookies on the grid, I think it's going to be a very fun year for all fans to tune in. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the year holds for us.
Well, tune in. We will for sure. We'll be watching eagerly to see if he can somehow pull it off with everyone that's gunning for him and has been for so many years now. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate all of your insights. And I will be, I definitely apply some of the things that we talked about today to my future career.
Well, this has been such a fantastic time. Thank you so much for having me on. Very excited to see, your own personal growth and see where this takes everyone.